6 months into his solo space mission, an astronaut gets help from an ancient creature he discovers in the bowels of his ship. Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a sci-fi adventure from 2024 titled Spaceman. The movie begins with Jakob, a Czech astrophysicist, waking up in his spacecraft thousands of miles from Earth. His day kicks off with a call from Peter, the flight curator, and a close friend, who informs him that Earth's inhabitants are eager to connect with their spacefaring hero. Tuma, the head of the Czech space program, commends the courageous pilot, noting that Jakob has now been on a solo mission for 189 days. This mission was initiated to investigate a mysterious cosmic phenomenon known as Chopra's cloud, which has captivated observers on Earth for the past 4 years due to its unexplained origin and composition. Jakob's journey to Jupiter aims to gather samples that could potentially unlock secrets of the universe. In just a few days, he's scheduled to collect these crucial samples. During a public Q&A session, a young girl expresses sympathy towards him, labeling him as the loneliest person in the universe. However, Jakob refutes this, pointing out that despite being 500 million kilometers away from Earth, he has already traveled nearly half the distance back home. Furthermore, he finds solace in the unwavering support of his beloved wife, Lenka, with whom he maintains instant communication through an advanced quantum communication system, surpassing the speed of light. Jakob's sense of isolation is further alleviated by this constant connection with Lenka. However, the atmosphere changes during a TV commercial break where Jakob is seen happily promoting a sponsor's products. Once the camera stops rolling, his smile fades, revealing the fatigue of a man who has been deprived of rest for too long. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lenka crafts a heartfelt apology to Jakob, expressing regret for leaving him under the belief that she's become unnecessary to him. However, the flight curator intercepts this message before it's transmitted and decides to forward it to Tuma instead. Amidst this, Jakob finds himself wrestling with the spacecraft's stubborn toilet once more. His complaints to Peter met with the latter's growing concern over the vessel's failing cameras, and Jakob's evident exhaustion. Peter advises Jakob to get some rest, especially after Jakob brings up Lenka's unexpected lack of communication. As Jakob begins his exercise routine, Tuma recalls the heavy emotions behind Lenka's message that he never sent. Lenka was in tears, talking about getting a divorce from Jakob. Tuma decided not to show the video to him because he was already under tremendous pressure, and Tuma didn't want to make him feel more stressed. Meanwhile, Lenka is packing her things, and her silence is making Jakob more worried. Feeling overwhelmed, Jakob turns to eating sweets for comfort, and struggles to sleep due to the mysterious Kur cloud and the strange sounds from a broken toilet. This restless night ends with Jakob having a terrifying dream where he sees alien tentacles crawling under his skin and around his face, eventually coming out of his mouth until he suddenly wakes up. Resuming his routine on the treadmill, Jakob prepares for sample collection, puzzled by the ship's malfunctioning cameras. The silence from Lenka weighs heavily on him until an unexpected voice offers assistance, a voice Peter cannot hear, suggesting Jakob might have intercepted a transmission from the Korean mission that followed theirs, though the language was unfamiliar. Later, Peter shares that Lenka has left for her mother's house, promising to keep in touch. This news slightly eases Jakob's mind, allowing him to focus on his duties. During an inspection, he encountered a massive hairy spider in one of the compartments. After a brief shutdown to contain the creature, Jakob discovered that not only had the spider remained, but it also sought to communicate with him. The spider claimed that it had no intention to scare him. Jakob locks himself inside the airlock and communicates with Peter, expressing his intention to decontaminate the entire ship. Peter, confused about what's going on, still manages to do as Jakob says. Suited up, he enters the password to activate the decontamination system. The spacecraft fills with disinfecting yellow foam, and as Jakob waits, he remembers a peaceful summer morning spent walking in the fields with Leno on Earth. While waiting, Peter believes Jakob is losing his mind being isolated in space for so long and recommends that he see a psychiatrist when he returns. When the decontamination process finishes, Jakob steps out of the airlock, only to find the spider in the same place as before. The spider informs Jakob that his strange bath had no effect on it, and even suggests that Jakob can remove his spacesuit without any danger. When Jakob reaches out to touch the thing and make sure it's not a dream, the spider avoids contact. explaining that physical interaction isn't customary among its kind. The spider reveals itself as an explorer, much like Jakob, who stumbled upon Earth accidentally. For 3.8 years, the spider observed Earth, learned human languages, and tried to understand humans, but it couldn't grasp the essence of the human soul. The spider was drawn to Jakob by his profound loneliness, deciding to venture closer out of a desire to better understand. Jakob goes to the sleeping quarters, seeking refuge, and hoping to awaken from what he wishes were just a nightmare. But memories of his wife, Lenka, flood his senses. In the station's main room, Lenka's apparition confronts him, revealing that the spider has been broadcasting his memories. It turns out the alien creature has the ability to enter his mind and read his thoughts, dreams, and memories. Intrigued by the complexity of human emotions, the spider expresses a desire to help Jakob in navigating his emotional turmoil, especially now that his partner seems to be slipping away. Despite Jakob's reluctance, the spider persists, convinced of its ability to help. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lenka visits her mother seeking companionship and care due to her pregnancy. She tells her mother how she loved Jakob, but also expresses feeling invisible to him. Finding herself in a boarding house for expectant mothers, Lenka contemplates her decision, surrounded by others in similar situations. However, feels the weight of her decision to distance herself from her husband during this crucial time in her life. Back on the spacecraft, the spider, curious about human sustenance, requests a sample of Jakob's food. He obliges and shares it, but the spider particularly enjoys the nut paste. The familiar taste evokes memories of the spider's own lost home, reminding it of its own journey and the universality of longing and loss. The spider's tale unfolds further as it shares its tragic past. Its planet was destroyed by an enemy attack, leaving it to wander alone in space for a long time. The spider shares with Jakob about Choer's cloud, telling him it's made of particles filled with knowledge. It is ancient and showcases the cycle of life, where everything starts and ends, including the universe itself. The spider then shows Jakob a memory of his first date with Lenka, where they promised to always be there for each other. The spider doesn't understand why promises are made if you can't keep them. Jakob doesn't have an answer. Jakob, feeling nostalgic, asks the spider to save some nut paste for later. Reluctantly, the spider does, hinting at a connection between them born from loss and the will to keep going. On Earth, Lenka talks to her mother, saying how tough it will be to raise a child on her own. Regardless, she's ready to do it, and plans to tell her child how much she loved their father at the beginning, even though she feels differently now. This conversation echoes back to the space station, underscoring the intricate nature of human emotions and connections that stretch across the vastness of space. Jakob finds himself curious about the spider's name and suggests naming it Hanus, inspired by a tale his father shared about a master clockmaker from ancient times who was blinded by a king after creating a magnificent astronomical clock. The spider agrees to the name. To lighten the mood, Jakob plays music from the opera Mermaid and tries to explain its significance. The spider responds by projecting a memory of Jakob's wife, Lenka, dressed as a mermaid, a recollection Jakob finds painful and prefers not to remember. That night, Jakob is tormented by nightmares about his father, a communist who died for his beliefs. However, Hanus offers comfort, assuring Jakob that dwelling on the past isn't necessary, as the universe unfolds as it should. The next day, Hanus observes with curiosity as Jakob exercises, a necessary routine in space to prevent muscle and bone decay. Hanus questions the motivation behind leaving one's home planet, not grasping the human drive for exploration and discovery. Meanwhile, Tuma visits Lenka, attempting to bridge the emotional gap between her and Jakob. But Lenka is hesitant to revisit the past. Tuma decides not to pass Lenka's message to Jakob, suggesting that, despite the silence, they remain connected at heart. As the mission nears its critical phase with only 45 hours left to reach Choer's cloud, Lenka's voice unexpectedly fills the station. Jakob rushes to the transmitter and is greeted by the sight of Lenka's face on the screen. They reminisce about their past and contemplate the future. During their conversation, Jakob notices a glowing particle, described by Hanus as the beginning, drifting in the cabin. He attempts to capture it in a jar, but the particle effortlessly passes through all barriers, a reminder of the indescribable mysteries surrounding their journey. Suddenly, the ship's communications go dark, and Chopra's cloud's particles begin swirling throughout the cabin. Hanus reassures Jakob, explaining that the beginning harbored within the cloud means no harm. It's a repository of knowledge beyond human language. Hanus then asks why the thought of a new child fills Lenka with dread, sensing her fear. Jakob reveals their past heartbreak over losing their first child and his absence when they needed him most, reflecting on promises he couldn't keep and the trust he broke with Lenka. Eventually, Jakob manages to contact Peter using the quantum phone. But as they speak, Hanus invokes memories of Jakob and Lenka discussing his space journey, highlighting Jakob's oblivious confidence and disregard for Lenka's feelings. Realizing Jakob's selfishness, he is to blame for the root of his loneliness. Hanus loses interest in him and decides it's time to depart, causing Jakob to panic at the thought of being left alone again. Driven by desperation, Jakob attempts to physically reach out to Hanus, who quickly presses him against the wall, reminding him of their preference for non-physical communication. The spider releases him and moves away to the other part of the station. Jakob goes after it and promises he will change. Jakob, now understanding the depth of his losses and mistakes, floats in zero gravity, crying himself with memories of Lenka and the realization of what he's lost. After Jakob calls Peter, he asks him to check on Lenka and deliver a message. Peter does as he says and goes to Lenka's house, where he gives her the quantum phone. Jakob then expresses his love and asks for forgiveness for his past selfishness, acknowledging how he's overlooked what truly mattered. Following their heartfelt exchange, Hanus's voice returns and suggests that Jakob rest, having redeemed himself in some way. Jakob pleads with Hanus to stay, discovering that the spider is also tormented by loneliness. Jakob realizes that Hanus is not well, and later learns that it had escaped from its enemies in the past, but is now suffering from the consequences of this. Despite this, Hanus shows unexpected warmth towards Jakob, and the spider embraces him, marking their first physical contact. Overwhelmed, Jakob falls asleep for the first time in a long time, from which Hanus gently awakens him, indicating that something important awaits him. With a gesture of friendship, Hanus even brings a hot tube of coffee, stirring him for the day's important task. Jakob then reaches out to the Czech Space Authority, dedicating his mission to humanity and, most importantly, to Lenka. Afterward, he reduces his speed as he begins sample collection. But then, a sudden illness befalls Hanus, prompting Jakob to abandon his duties in an attempt to help his friend. Despite the ship's equipment malfunctioning and commands from Earth to cancel sample collection, Jakob's focus remains solely on Hanus, now adrift in the vacuum of space. As the ship systems begin to show more errors one after another, the control center orders to end the mission and return, but Jakob puts on a spacesuit, grabs a bomb, and exits the ship, disregarding Peter's pleas for his return. He uses the blast from the bomb to propel himself towards Hanus, securing a desperate hold on the weak spider. Hanus expresses gratitude, but acknowledges it's all in vain. Soon the enemies will consume him. Amid the endless void, Jakob is hit by a childhood memory of nearly drowning, only to be rescued by his father. This recollection leads him to forgive his father's mistakes and, most importantly, to forgive himself. Hanus led Jakob into the Chopra's cloud's core, revealing profound truths about his existence and the universe itself. The core cloud is not just the beginning, but also the end, containing the essence of Jakob's life, including his past and future, his identity, his relationships with Lena and Hanus, and every moment of joy and sorrow he had experienced. Everything is unchangeable and impermanent, but this is the truth of nature. The universe is as it should be. Astonished by how little he knew about the universe and himself, Jakob finally remembered the most important things in life, the true desires of his heart. He reminisced about the times he fell deeply in love with Lena, recognizing these memories as the foundation of what truly mattered to him. In the profound serenity of the universe, Lenka appears to Jakob once again, affirming their love as nothing short of miraculous. This echoes the unexpected bond that formed between Hanus and Jakob. In gratitude, Jakob offers Hanus the last can of nut paste as a small token of their unique friendship. Hanus in turn urges Jakob to embrace the quiet that follows before disintegrating into millions of particles. It's a fate that Hanus shares with its kind as they all become victims to the same voracious entities that obliterated its kind. Back on Earth, Lenka encounters a luminescent particle in the grass, a sign of the deep interconnectedness that binds them across the cosmos. In the vastness of space, Jakob, adorned in his spacesuit, drifts through a nebulous stream. Below him, Lenka appears in a mermaid costume, inviting him for a kiss. Her face remains his final vision, before the lights of a South Korean rescue ship cut through the void, drawing him from the surreal back to reality. Reunited with the means to communicate, Jakob reaches out to Lenka, his voice heavy with remorse and newfound wisdom. He confesses his regrets, wishing for just one more kiss, armed with the knowledge he now possesses. The story teaches us about the importance of cherishing our relationships, especially family, over ambitions or distant dreams. Jakob's journey into space and his encounters with an alien highlight how crucial it is to value our loved ones and the moments we share with them. It's a reminder that sometimes we need to look beyond our goals to see what truly gives our life meaning and purpose. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.